imagine for a moment that the entire spiritual journey of humanity could be distilled into a single question. Not a complex philosophy, not a ritual, not years of intellectual study, just one question, simple, direct, almost disarmingly ordinary. And yet, according to the great sage Ramana Maharshi, this one question has the power to begin the process of awakening itself. But here is the strange thing. This question is not meant to give you an answer in the way the mind normally expects. It is not meant to satisfy curiosity. It is meant to dissolve the very one who is asking. Because if we look carefully at the human condition, we discover something remarkable. Almost every problem in life, fear, anxiety, jealousy, ambition, insecurity, comes from one assumption that we never question. The assumption that we know who we are. From childhood, we are given a name, a history, a personality, a role in society. Slowly a story forms. This is me. And once this story takes hold, everything else in life begins to orbit around it. But what if that story is not what you truly are? This is where Ramana Maharshi's radical insight enters. He did not ask seekers to adopt new beliefs or to accumulate spiritual knowledge. Instead, he invited them into a simple but profound investigation. He said, before trying to change the world, before trying to purify the mind, before trying to reach enlightenment, first ask the most fundamental question possible. Who am I? At first glance, the question appears almost childish. You might immediately respond, I am this person. I am this body. I am this mind. But Maharshi would gently ask you to look again. Are you truly the body? The body is constantly changing. The body you had as a child is gone. The body you had 10 years ago is gone. Even the cells in your body are continuously replacing themselves. And yet something about you feels continuous. Something says, I am the same one who lived through all these changes. So if the body changes, but the sense of I remains, can you really be just the body? Then perhaps you think, I am the mind. But observe the mind for a moment. Thoughts appear and disappear endlessly. One moment you are thinking about the past. The next moment about the future. Sometimes the mind is calm. Sometimes it is restless. Sometimes it is joyful. Sometimes it is filled with fear. Thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. But something is always aware of them. So again the question arises. If thoughts are appearing and disappearing, who is aware of them? This is where the question, who am I, begins to reveal its deeper power. Because the purpose of the question is not to produce a verbal answer. The purpose is to turn your attention back toward the source of the I itself. Normally, our attention is always flowing outward, toward objects, people, memories, plans, desires. The mind runs outward like a river constantly moving away from its source. But when you ask sincerely, Who am I? Something extraordinary happens. The direction of attention reverses. Instead of moving outward, awareness begins to turn inward toward the one who is experiencing. And when you look carefully, something astonishing begins to appear. You cannot actually find the person you thought you were. You can find sensations in the body. You can find thoughts. You can find emotions. But the solid me that seemed so obvious begins to dissolve under observation. It is like chasing a shadow. The more closely you look, the more it disappears. And this discovery is not depressing. It is liberating. Because what you begin to notice is that behind all thoughts, behind all identities, there is a silent presence that has always been here. A quiet awareness that is simply witnessing everything. It was present when you were a child. It was present during every joy and every sorrow. It is present right now, listening to these words. That silent awareness does not have an age. It does not have a nationality. It does not have a personal story. It simply is. Maharshi pointed to this presence as the true self. Not the ego self that is constructed from memories and beliefs, but the deeper self that is pure awareness itself. And here is the subtle beauty of the question, who am I? When asked sincerely, it gradually dissolves the habit of identifying with the body and mind. Every time a thought appears, I am worried. I am angry. I am this person. The question quietly returns. Who is this I? Where does it arise? And as this inquiry deepens, something remarkable happens. The I that once seemed like a solid identity begins to reveal itself as just another thought appearing in awareness. In fact, Maharshi said that the ego itself is nothing more than the I thought. The moment the mind says, I, it creates the illusion of a separate person who is living life. But when the source of this, I thought, is examined, it cannot actually be found. And when the root thought dissolves, what remains is the natural state of awareness. Silent, open, limitless. This is why Maharshi described self-inquiry not as a philosophy, but as a direct path to awakening. It does not require complicated practices. It does not depend on external conditions. It simply requires the courage to look deeply into the nature of the one who believes he is living this life. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this teaching is that awakening does not mean becoming something new. It means recognizing what has always been here. Right now, even as you listen, there is an awareness that is hearing these words. Notice that this awareness is already present before any thought comments on the experience. It is the quiet background of every moment. This awareness is not something you need to create. It is not something that will arrive in the future. It is what you already are. And the question, who am I, is like a doorway. Each time you ask it sincerely, it gently guides attention back toward this silent presence, back toward the source of consciousness itself. At first, the mind may resist. It may search for intellectual answers. It may become impatient. But the power of the question lies in its simplicity. Each time the mind wanders outward into stories, the inquiry quietly brings it back. Who is experiencing this moment? Who is aware of this thought? Who is the one who says, I? And as this inquiry deepens, something profound begins to unfold. The sense of being a separate individual slowly loosens. The heavy narrative of my life begins to fade. And in its place, there is a simple, spacious awareness, vast, silent, and deeply peaceful. This is the beginning of awakening, not a dramatic explosion, not a mystical spectacle, but a quiet recognition that the one you believed yourself to be was never the real you. The real you has always been the awareness in which the entire story of your life is appearing. And once this is seen, even briefly, the journey of awakening has truly begun, because the question has done its work. It has turned consciousness back toward itself. So the invitation from Maharshi remains as powerful today as it was a century ago. In the midst of daily life, in the middle of thoughts, emotions, and experiences, pause for a moment and ask quietly within, who am I? Not as a philosophical puzzle, not as a concept, but as a direct exploration of the one who is experiencing this moment. Because somewhere in the silent depth of that question lies the doorway to the discovery that the sages have spoken about for thousands of years. The discovery that the awareness looking through your eyes right now is not limited, not separate, and not confined to the story of a single life. It is the infinite self itself.